Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with this week's AEW Dynamite review for May 18th, 2022. It's Wild Card Wednesday. We've got a couple of jokers in the deck for a couple of these Owen Hart Tournament matches. And we're going to find out who those mystery opponents are as the show goes on. And there's a lot more in store for this week's show, so let's dive right in. The opening match is the last quarterfinal match in the men's Owen Hart Tournament. Samoa Joe taking on the Joker, and it's Johnny Elite, aka John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, Johnny Retro from Retromania Wrestling, among others, making his AEW debut, and a big ovation for him too, which is really cool to see. It's his first appearance on TV since he was released earlier this year from WWE. A lot of chops and kicks to start this thing off here. Johnny with some great moves. At one point he's got kind of a cartwheel into a kick, then his big flipping dive to the outside. After the break, Joe with a big shoulder tackle to Johnny. I love the big flipping bump that he does there. Johnny hits a Samoan drop and a 450. Doesn't quite get all of it, but he hits it, and as a 2 count, goes for Starship Pain, but Joe gets the knees up, puts him in the corner for the Muscle Buster to win the match. But right after the bell rings, Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt go jump Joe. Satnam Singh enters the ring as well. They beat him up. Then the Best Friends and Rocky Romero come out to make the save, and that's where the segment ends there. I thought it was a fun opener. Johnny Elite's debut was a nice surprise. It was kind of a mid-level one. I forget who I was reading on Twitter, but they made a good point. The fact that the Jokers you see tonight, Tony Khan wasn't hyping them up to heck like he normally does these mystery things, which makes it seem like, okay, maybe they're not being signed. They're just kind of just fun little temporary surprises. So is this the last we'll see of John Morrison or Johnny Elite in AEW? Who knows? But I think the showing he had here was pretty good. Lexi Nair is backstage interviewing Jeff Hardy, who has just now been medically cleared to actually be in this advertised match with Adam Cole in the Owen Hart semifinal match in the tournament. And before he talks much, the Young Bucks come in there and kind of concern troll for Jeff's health and well-being after the match he had with Darby Allin last week. So, you wouldn't want Adam Cole to beat the crap out of you in the state that you're in. And then, Jeff says he's going to be fine. Then Matt gets in the Bucks' face, says, hey, he's a legitimate Hardy, unlike you Hardy Boy cosplayers that you two are. And he basically threatens Matt and Nick, saying if they're going to be interfering in the match tonight, they're going to get beat up. CM Punk's on commentary for the next match, the non-title affair, as Hangman Page takes on the visitor from Japan, Konosuke Takeshita. And this is a great matchup here. It's very physical, and I just loved, not just the physicality, but the athleticism that both these relatively big guys had. I love this one point, Takeshita doing this big vault over the top rope, and the way he kind of turns his body and grabs onto the rope like he's doing the poles in gymnastics or something on his way down was really cool to see. Takeshita goes on a big run after the break here, hits a Blue Thunder Bomb and a big plancha. Page hitting a tombstone at one point. Takeshita kicks out. Takeshita hitting the last ride on Page at one point, but Hangman kicks out. Finally, Page absorbs like a top rope punch, hits the buckshot, then the GTS to win. Kind of a tit for tat thing when Punk won his last match with the buckshot to kind of send a message to Page. And this time you could see the body language was different. Page was wanting Punk to react to that, and Punk was just like, yeah, I love this, woohoo, this is awesome. He was just taking it in stride, and you could see there was kind of frustration there in that face-off they had after the match was over. As far as the match itself, like I said, very physical, very entertaining. I thought it was a great showing for Takeshita, and they're definitely building that story of Page possibly having Punk get into his head, and will that affect the outcome of the match in Vegas? Time will tell, but I really have been liking the build for Page and Punk so far. The Dark Order and Fuego del Sol cut a promo on the House of Black, saying they have their number on Friday. Good luck with that. I want to go to another match as Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee take on the Workhorsemen. That's Anthony Henry and J.D. Drake. This is a pretty academic squash match. It's fairly short here, and in the end, you've got Swerve and Lee winning handily here with the big powerbomb stomp combo that they do. Afterward, Keith Lee's on the microphone saying that with that win, they are now in the top 5 of the rankings for the tag division. And then with that, you see Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs make their way to the ring. And these two teams jaw jack, basically saying who deserves a shot at the tag champs first. Then out come Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus alongside Christian Cage. Cage doing the talking for the champions here, saying, hey, let's have a triple threat match at Double or Nothing for the tag titles. Oh, and while we're at it, next week, Jungle Boy can fight Swerve and Starks in a triple threat, because I can make matches now, apparently. And there's a bit of body language with Jungle Boy where I don't know if he's surprised, but is he upset by it? They've been planting very, very subtle seeds, it seems, over the last several weeks of some kind of rift between Jurassic Express and Christian Cage. So maybe this is kind of leading into that a little bit, kind of a slow drip. But yeah, the whole funny thing of just like Christian making matches aside, I thought that, the whole segment was to tell a greater story than just that squash match you saw. Tony Schiavone's backstage with Chris Statlander and Red Velvet ahead of their match in the women's Owen Hart Tournament. And they both basically say, hey, things have changed since we were last friends, and but we're both very driven and we both want to win this tournament, and it's all about business. And then Jade Cargill comes in and kind of berates Chris a little bit on behalf of Red Velvet and saying that she has a much better leader by her side now. Then it's time for MJF to give Wardlow his 10 lashes. MJF having a hard time getting the words Houston, Texas to leave his mouth at first. He also warns that if Wardlow retaliates during the lashes, that he loses his chance with a match with him at Double or Nothing. So Wardlow, handcuffed, surrounded by security with the big chance for him, he enters the ring, and MJF starts doing the lashes. First of all, this whole segment feels like it's like a lot of the emotional weight and anguish that was done like the last couple of times MJF did the lashes and stuff, not present here at all, because it's a totally different opponent. So he's doing the lashes and Wardlow's just not selling them at all. He's just kind of smirking, laughing it off. It's pissing MJF off to the point where he just burns through a lot of the lashes because he's lost his temper with Wardlow. And so Shawn Spears takes over, does a couple more lashes. Finally, in the last one, MJF takes Wardlow to Dick Kick City, and it's a few more lashes for good measure. And then afterwards, Shawn Spears hits the C4, and MJF with the big knockout punch with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And I thought that was, again, it was very different than the lash segments we've gotten the last couple of years with MJF, but I like this one. And again, I feel they're doing all the right moves with Wardlow right now and his presentation and his vibe and his energy. It just feels like he's just Joe Cool all the time. He's got all the right kind of like answers and looks for what MJF does. And yeah, like MJF's getting getting over on him every once in a while with cheap shots and everything, but Wardlow still is this cool, confident guy, and he knows that he has MJF's number. And I think this is brilliant the way they've been doing this. And so one of the things I'm most excited about in Double or Nothing is how they're going to actually, what they're going to do with this matchup. But the build here has been great. We see Trent and Rocky Romero again. Roppongi Vice are back, and they want the gold, sucker. They want the ROH tag belts, the IWGP heavyweight tag belts, and the AEW tag titles. So first stop, they're challenging FTR to a match with the Ring of Honor tag titles, and that should be a very good match when it inevitably happens. And by the way, speaking of Rocky Romero, you can catch him wrestling Davey Richards right here on this channel. It's from this week's episode of POW Pro Wrestling. Check it out right here in the corner. On we go now to I was lying before. This is the last quarterfinal matchup in the Owen Hart Men's Tournament as Rey Fenix takes on Kyle O'Reilly. I was confused for a second because Rey comes out with Penta and Pac and Alex Abrahantes, but I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't Abrahantes like a dark mage not too long ago? Like, was that just for Penta, or is he back to being normal again? I missed maybe 2 episodes of Dynamite in the last month, and maybe those are some key vital pieces of information I might have missed. But anyway, the match itself was awesome. If you watch one match from Dynamite this week, it should be this one. I think it was the strongest of the night. And talk about a match really befitting Owen Hart's legacy. The technical and the grappling abilities of O'Reilly, and the real fun athleticism and the high flying of Rey Fenix, and the way he can just kind of effortlessly bounce off the ropes and stuff. It was all there. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of great things in this match that are kind of hard for me to recap, basically. But there is an amazing moment here where Fenix does this walking the top rope like a tightrope thing, hits a Hurricane Rana to the outside. That was the last great big oh my god moment in this thing, because right afterward, Fenix does a dive into the ring, but Kyle catches him into a head and arm submission and makes Fenix tap out for Kyle to win the match here, and he'll be facing Samoa Joe in the next round of the tournament, which I'm very excited for. But yeah, definitely a great match, action-packed, a lovely contrast of styles, and like I said, definitely captured the spirit of just what made Owen Hart so good in the ring. Then it's time for the promo face-off with William Regal and Chris Jericho. The Jericho Appreciation Society, they come out second, and they cut off Judas because they say the fans don't deserve to sing along to it because they cheered them getting beat up by the Blackpool Combat Club and LAX the previous week. So anyway, Jericho on the mic immediately going after Regal for his history with substance abuse over the years, saying you should have been a world-class champion, but instead. You were a world-class addict. He goes on to like roast everyone else in the ring, and he talks to Danielson saying, you're some squeaky clean nerd, but Regal's going to corrupt you by giving you disco biscuits and whiskey. Then you're going to end up in a program like Moxley, which got big boos and everything. Again, he's just like hitting all below the belt with all these different things here, and says he warns Regal of you. Don't stay out of my way. I'll throw a fireball in your face or I'll piss in your tea. And that was actually, that closing line was probably the best part of the promo that I enjoyed the most. Regal saying the only thing worse than Chris Jericho's voice is the sound of screams in a burning orphanage. It was like, wow, we are just like hitting them dingers, those big, great one-liners right out the gate here in this promo here. And then his basic response to all that Jericho said was, well, for years I've been taking your toothbrush and sticking it up my bum. And I did it to Daniel Garcia last week too. And like, that was it. That was the extent of Regal's rebuttal before they went on to the next part of this segment. And I'm just like, what was that? That was very interesting back and forth, and maybe not the response I would have gone for if I were William Regal. But anyway, Jericho wants to challenge them to a Stadium Stampede match, but Moxley cuts that shit off right away, saying, I'm not doing that shit, which is hilarious and so fitting of his character and his style. I wouldn't expect him to do the Stadium Stampede. He does admit it was a different time back then, but he basically wants gang warfare, does Moxley here. And then Jericho and Matt Menard on the mic try to stir the pot, say, yeah, well, you guys have issues with each other because you called each other names at one point months ago. And Kingston and Danielson are like, so, yeah? Like, they want to fight. And then Jericho says, nah, they go to leave. Danielson wants to hold Eddie Kingston back, and then they get into a bit of a shoving match as this thing ends. So it's kind of like it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, or whatever Jericho was talking about their issues. Hey, they already are coming to manifest right here in this thing. So maybe Jericho had a point. It was a very weird segment with this one. It went a little long, and then just the subject matter. Like, I'm okay with wrestlers bringing up like past demons and stuff as long as everyone's cool with it. Fine, then like that's their business. But just, again, the contrast of what was said. Jericho just going like over the top, it seems, with all the personal references and everything. And then Regal's retort was just like, well, you got my poop in your mouth. Yeah, it's like, that was such a weird, wouldn't have expected that from, from the bastard, not the bastard, but the evil, born naughty William. Maybe that was him being naughty. I don't know. But it just like didn't feel like what I was expecting from that at all. After that, we hear from Matt Sydal and Dante Martin backstage, where they kind of poke fun at the Blackpool Combat Club for, not having their stuff together. And they challenge Moxley and Danielson to a match on Friday at Rampage. Spoiler alert, this is something I saw on social media just before I started rolling on this. Apparently, there was a bit of a equipment or set mishap. There's a gap between the ramp and the ring. Danielson got his leg caught in it, which looked really scary. He was trapped for a couple of minutes, and they had to, this is after the show went off the air and everything, and then he had to sit there for a bit until he got freed, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain. At the time of this recording, I've not read any updates or anything. Hopefully he's okay, and it's not a very serious injury. Kind of scary, and you hope that that can be addressed in the future. We go to the penultimate quarterfinal match in the women's Owen Hart Tournament. You've got Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, taking on the Joker, and it's Maki Ito, the pop idol from Japan, and someone who was also briefly Britt's partner early last year. We get some comedy stuff early on here, like Maki giving Britt the finger, stepping on Britt's foot to keep her from moving for a moment. It turns into some good back and forth here. The crowd at one point, when Maki goes for her big comeback with the hard head thing and the nose selling the driven into the turnbuckle, the crowd doesn't seem to register it at first. It's not until she's doing it again and much more animated, then the crowd's very much into it. I love when Maki goes for her diving headbutt thing. Britt moves out of the way, but Maki just kind of spins out of it and hits it anyway. That was pretty entertaining. But Britt gets the lockjaw put in to win the match here. They'll be meeting, she's meeting Toni Storm in the next round, who actually shows up after the match and stares down Britt. And Britt doesn't seem too impressed. She's just kind of doing the hands and everything. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, the match itself was okay. Fun seeing Maki out there. The fans really do seem to dig her. Tony Schiavone in the ring, putting over Double or Nothing when Serena Deeb comes out and chastises him for the comments he made in the Serena Thunder Rosa Hype package last week, basically saying that, oh, you said that I didn't have a chance of beating her. And Tony's like, I just said that, that Thunder was going to win. I didn't say you couldn't beat her. And then she calls out Dustin Rhodes for very similar things, the comments that he was making, kind of treating Thunder like kind of the teacher's pet is the way she interpreted it. And she goes into this big speech about how hard she worked, and the dues I had to pay to try and get respect. I still didn't get any respect. I got breast implants put in my body to satisfy some perverted old man, and I had my head shaved to prove how much I wanted, but it still wasn't good enough. And so yeah, it was a very good, emotional, justified heel promo from Serena here. And she's running down Dustin. Finally, Thunder Rosa comes out and wants a piece. Dustin holds her back, and in doing so, Thunder accidentally elbows Dustin in the head. And then in the chaos, you've got Serena hitting Thunder from behind with the belt and taking it with her. And so that was the end of that segment. I thought that was a great promo by Serena here. And it's been kind of a subtle build with these two. It's not been like they're having a match or having some kind of in-ring conflict every week. But I think that the build they are doing for this match so far has been pretty good. And this promo, I think, has been the best part of it. Main event time is a semifinal match in the Owen Hart Men's Tournament as Adam Cole takes on Jeff Hardy. Cole jumping Jeff when Jeff's making his entrance here. Good match with these two guys. I mean, there's not much for me to really say about it one way or the other. I think it was a very solid main event matchup here, and you know exactly what you can expect with these two guys. Jeff at one point going for Whisper in the Wind, but Cole intercepts with the super kick. Jeff hitting the stunner and the twist of hate. He goes for the swanton, but Cole moves, hits the last shot. Cole wins and advances to the finals. So he's either facing Kyle O'Reilly, so we've seen that one not too long ago, or Samoa Joe. So I think any of those combinations would be great. After the match, the Young Bucks show up and they and Cole beat down Matt and Jeff. Darby Allin and Sting arrive and they clean house. Then Red Dragon show up to outnumber Sting. Sting no-sells a chair shot and punches or throws the chair back into Kyle O'Reilly's face or something. Then they beat him down. Double super kick to Sting, I should say, by the Bucks. They Pillmanize his ankle, and then they have no time to really let it breathe before they say, we're out of time, and they have to fade to black. So it's it was very urgent the way they did that, but I think that was kind of a good way to cut it off. But yeah, the match itself was good, but the real story here was just Adam Cole, undisputed elite, standing tall in a big way there and really building Cole as a serious threat to winning it all in the tournament. So the visual Sting getting Pillmanized was interesting, and yeah, I think it was fine match, but again, the story is putting over the undisputed elite. My grade for this week's Dynamite is a C+. I thought it was a pretty solid episode of the show this week. Nothing too crazy or ridiculous here. Even the surprises of John Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Elite, and Maki Ito, those were fun reveals, but they weren't meant to be earth-shattering. Oh my God, this new person's gonna change everything. And so I think it was kind of a nice way to pop the crowd and not have it be of too much consequence in the grand scheme of things. Again, whether or not we see more of Maki Ito or Johnny Elite in AEW in the near future, who knows? But I think it was a good little appearance for them. Again, the only thing I really didn't like about the show was the Jericho Regal promo off there. Again, I don't have a problem with the subject matter that Jericho talked about, because as long as both parties consent, they want to talk about those things in the past, I think it's fine, whatever. It's just, again, the point-counterpoint that they had there, they didn't really match to me, and I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity there. But those are just my thoughts, folks. What did you think of Dynamite this week? Let me hear it in the comment section below. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.